going to bring to the stage our chief scientist, Bert Wonnacott.
Get to your feet for Bert.
Let's talk a little bit about the brain. We've had conversation. Steve shared with you some of the issues with the brain and the conversation with the brain. See if we get this to work. The brain. It looks just like that, doesn't it? I know you've all looked at your brain and it looks just like this, right? The brain is an amazing organ. I mean, an incredible organ. It weighs about 3 pounds. 1.6 kilograms. It's about 2% of your body weight. Now for me, I've got a smaller brain and a bigger body, so that percentage would be different. But that 2%, that brain uses almost 20% of your body's energy. It has 86, let's see if I get this right, 86 quadrillion neurons in your head. If you were to take those and lay them one by one in a chain, it'd go around the earth 4 times. Okay? The brain itself, because of that, because each of the neurons has an ability to connect with the other neurons, it has a huge amount of computing power. Steve shared with you some of the things that it does. One of the things that is amazing is that it can process 16 quadrillion operations a second. Let me put that in context for you. If you were to take all of the sand, all of the particles of sand on all the beaches around the world, and count them, of course, you'd have to count them quickly, because you've got to count them all in a second, right? Multiply that by 1,330. That's the number of operations that are going on in our heads on a regular basis. It's an incredible organ. And because of it, and because it uses so much energy and so much of our oxygen and our blood supply, if you were to take your brain and take the blood the blood network, first of all, it'd be really messy, so we probably wouldn't want to do that. 400 miles, 600 kilometers of network. You cannot study the brain and not believe in a higher power. It's just incredible. So we've had some fun getting involved with it. Let me talk to you about kind of Dr. Dave talked about the 7 pillars. I'm only going to be talking about 5, and this is only as far as the brain is concerned. Not lifestyle, but just as the brain. The first one that we've got is an antioxidant defense. How many of you have heard about what oxidative stress is? We've heard that term. Do we know what that means? That means that there are particles in our body, molecules in our body, that have lost an electron. A simple electron. I know, I don't know where they lost it, and we don't have a lost and found for them. But they lost an electron, and their desire is to go steal an electron from something else. When it comes to the brain, they will steal it from the cellular structure. Once their electron has been fulfilled, that particular model or molecule's fine, but now we have a cell or a part of a cell that's missing an electron. And it cascades and continues to cascade. That's oxidative stress. For those of you who have never had that, for those of you who have had that, I'm sorry, but those of you who haven't had that, that's what goes on when they talk about oxidative stress. when they talk about antioxidants, these are molecules that come and give those thieving free radicals an electron. So that's what happens, that's what the process is in terms of protecting the brain and the molecules that are in the brain, the cells that are in the brain. So we have a number of ingredients. We have calcium ascorbate, vitamin C. It is one of our great antioxidants. It gives up its electrons fairly easily. You, of course, know L-glutathione and L-cysteine. L-glutathione is an interesting animal. Steve could tell you more. Steve's forgotten more. Even with the brain formula, he's forgotten more than I will ever know about glutathione. But what happens is the glutathione molecule gives up the electron, and then what does he do? Or she, I don't know, I haven't looked. What do they do? Well, they're one electron short. Doesn't that make them a free radical? It does. But they find another one that's given up one of their electrons, and they get together. And then L-cysteine comes in and helps them out and gives them back each an electron. So it's one of those antioxidants that gets recycled. That's the case with all of these antioxidants. Once they have given up or replaced the electron, they either through a large group or like glutathione, replace the electron and then can come back and find more of those darn free radicals. One of the things we don't like is free radicals. And we're not talking politics. We're talking molecules, okay? Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba has been around for 200 million years. That's the old timer in this whole formula. And its job is twofold. You'll see it come back up again. It helps in terms of replacing the electrons that the cells have lost because of oxidative stress. So that's step one. We have an antioxidant defense. The next one is cognitive enhancement. I already told you that the body uses 20% of its energy just to make this thing operate. And part of that energy is derived from what we eat, what we do, our lifestyle. Part of the energy comes, in some cases, it's genetic. Okay, so we've got ingredients in this main element of cognitive enhancement and mental energy. We've got caffeine. Caffeine is a natural product. I can give you all the details about how it blocks some of these signals so that it doesn't make you feel tired anymore. All of the studies include caffeine as a helpful and supportive chemistry. So we put some caffeine in it. So that's the acetyl L-carnitine. Dr. Dave said that it is part of keeping the body or the cells healthy. It keeps the energy in the brain to be able to be used. It's kind of Bob the Builder. Kind of the thing that keeps the energy being used in the cells. And then L-theanine is an interesting. It by itself is designed to be a calming chemistry. And you say, well, I don't necessarily want to be alert, and yet you're trying to calm me down. One of the things that L-theanine does is that it does a huge amount of taking caffeine and extending its use in the body without the caffeine jitters. So that's what that's there for. Inflammation reduction. Inflammation, picture in inflammation. Inflammation easily is the body starts to become inflamed. Picture a group of firefighters. that come to fight a fire in a home, and it's limited to a trash can in the backyard. And they decide to flood the house just to be safe. That's what the inflammation, that's the problem with inflammation in the body, is that the body creates those firefighters to come and help put out the fires, but it gets carried away. It gets overwhelmed. Curcumin, as you know, has been an inflammatory treating component forever. Comes from turmeric, and then they've come up with the curcuminoids, and curcumin is the one that's got it. And finally, MSM. MSM is designed not only to be an anti-inflammatory, but it's also a carrier. So that gives you the ability to go through the process so that we have not only the inflammation work, but it's also it's carried into the brain. Next one is cerebral blood flow. You heard Dr. Larson talk about arginine. Arginine is designed specifically to open the blood vessels, smooth walls, and let blood flow. Now remember, we said that this little thing up here takes 20% of our energy, 20% of our blood flow. You start to hamper that, then all of a sudden you have problems with your cognitive behaviors and all the rest. Magnesium glutenate's the same. Magnesium is it's got about 300 uses in the body. It helps to allow the blood to work. It allows the vessels to work. And then ginkgo biloba comes back into it again. In this case, ginkgo biloba includes collagen. And that collagen helps the blood vessels. The fifth one is the neurotransmitter support. And again, we've got a couple that you've seen before. This pyridoxal 5-phosphate, it's a vitamin B. L-theanine we've seen all of those. Phosphatidylserine is one of the chemistries that then convert to choline and acetylcholine. And all of those help the body function, the brain function. In terms of all of these connected, we've got the synergy of a product that gives us more than just a simple buzz. This is no energy drink. Somebody asked me about how much caffeine is in a serving. If you break it down into macro, and we can have the conversation about being macro and not macro, but if you were looking at a macro, it's probably between 4 and 5 milligrams a serving. A cup of coffee is someplace around 60. So you can see that it's about a tenth of what you would get from a cup of coffee. It's designed that way. It's designed that way because we do not want to offset the balance in terms of stimulation and then have the problems with the high energy drinks where you go like this and then all of a sudden you're crashed. You know, high caffeine, high sugar, and then it dissipates. So that's the product in a nutshell. In a nutshell. This one has been one of those that has been absolutely a delight to create because we had some specific things we wanted to make sure it did. These 5 pieces is what we wanted to have done in the product itself.